So if you're installing lights, the first thing you're going to do is set up your rig, how you're going to pull these lights out. And right now we have just a ladder and a pole. But as you get better, one thing we're going to do is build a couple spool holders on wheels so we can just roll them out to the job. This job right here is a warm white job, which is going to be what 80 to 85% of your jobs typically are. So we're going to roll these out, bulb and clip. That's the first thing we do at every job. All you're going to do is take this clip, put it like that on there so the open side of the clip goes down on the socket. You're going to take a bulb and screw it in. And the thing here is to make sure that the bulb stays straight as you're screwing it in. You want to go right to the edge of tight. You'll kind of feel it as you go how tight you need to get this. Now if you want to be super efficient, get you a pouch and have clips on one side and bulbs on the other. As you're clipping and bulbing, turn both hands away from each other and try to get just to where you can screw that bulb in twice. And we're going to find some stuff that's out, and that's just part of the unfortunate part of the business, is that when we get these lights up, there may be some out we might not know until nighttime. There is one solution that we have done before that kind of works with the lights on the house, and we tested this out. We called it a blinker, and essentially when the lights are up, you just plug the blinker in, and all it does is flashes the lights. It's a little bit easier to tell when they're going off and coming on. All right, so you've seen the house map. Here's the house map, and we're doing these front trim, lower level, call them what you want, with those dormers, and then the top line here. So you know we're going to be running up and across there. We're not going to be hitting these coming down unless they want to add them later. We want to think about where power is going to come from so that we can run lines efficiently. We do have an electrical outlet right here. So if we started here, we'd run down this gutter over across. And remember, if you've seen any of our other training videos, you always want to do the top sections first so that you're never pulling lines over lines. You pull lines over lines, you'll rip everything off. It'll be a disaster and you have to start over. Let's go look on the other side of the house and see if we have a better option for power. All right, Rodney's over here. We're about to start pulling lines up. We did find an outlet here. So we're gonna start from here and run our ridges upper level across and over from this outlet. Some people's houses have outlets. If they have outlets in the eave, then they're typically on a switch. I forgot to ask the customer this, but you can always ask them to turn their switch on before they leave for the day so that you can kind of check them as you put them up. When we rolled this line out, we wanted to make sure that we rolled out the end closest to the house so that when these lights are going up, they just kind of snake. Rodney's letting slack down on this ridge here so that we can find our peak bulb. Peaks are reference points. Every reference point you have, you want to utilize it because that is how you're going to mark your lines when you take them down. But reference points are super important when it comes to putting these lights up next year. We've got slack here, but that's okay if we have to cut a bulb out. What we're wanting to do is the end of that line needs to end close to that electrical outlet that we're starting at. He's setting his peak bulb, and the way he's setting that is he's taking the end of the clip. And if you have to use some pliers or something, you can kind of bend this in, or you can even cut this tab off if you have to. You don't want to damage the customer's roof, and the quickest way to damage a peak is to try to shove a clip in it. And I've seen them where they're old and frail, and they'll break because you're trying to shove this clip in a peak. So do not tear the customer's roof up. Be super careful. Ideally, if we weren't in training and we had 3 guys on a crew, what Jesse would be doing would be he'd have the ground guy responsibilities. We would have 2 rolls spooled out and lights on them so that while Rodney's getting this one up, the ground guy can be running back and forth, and your other installer guy would be putting these dormers on with another spool as Rodney is working on these top ridges. So our last bulb on this ridge is going to be here. Why? Because our next line that starts is going to start right at the gutter. So they'll be about 15 inches apart, which is our spread. Rodney asked if we should go ahead and put males and females on while we're doing this. And the answer is no. You want to wait until the end of the job to put all of your males and females on. The beginning of the job, you just want to make sure that you map it well, that it makes sense. We've already kind of got an idea that we're going to run up across all the ridges up there and then come down the other side, and that's going to be one line. One thing about installing in southern states in the early parts of the season, September, October, is you really want to stay hydrated. And so make sure there's an ice chest or a cooler in the trailer that is loaded up by provided water by you, the business owner. There you go. So he's just pulling it tight down here so that when it pulled over this line right here, we wouldn't pull anything down. Rodney had a good question about ridge clips and would we use ridge clips on this job? And the answer is no. So what ridge clips do is they snap on the top of the roof at the ridge there and they stick straight up. Because the view is only from the front of the house, we can just take our regular clips, let's see if I can get my finger here, and clip on the underside of that shingle going all the way across. We do not need to see the lights from the back of the house on this job. In comparison to that, if they were wanting lights all the way around the house, then yes, we would do ridge clips up here. So we got a clip hung up somewhere right there. They're just gonna try to kind of whip it out of there. You wanna be careful on your customers' roofs too, just like not to make a ton of noise if you can possibly help it. If anybody's home, it just doesn't sound good beating all over the roof that does come through. This is actually Rodney's second job. Our first one was a doozy. It was a lot of learning and he is rocking and rolling, doing really awesome. So this is how quick you can pick it up. Main thing is just to stay safe. Don't try to do anything fast. Try to, like he's got his hands on the ridge there as he goes. You want to keep as many contact points as possible. When you're setting ladders, so we're thinking about getting that little rounded thing that the ladder rests on the shingles and not the gutter line. If you're resting on the gutter line, you just need to be super careful. This one's kind of close to the edge. You want to pay attention to how close your ladder is to the edge of the house because they can always slip off. It's good to put them like in a corner or in a valley so it's easier for them to get off safely. Another responsibility of the ground guy is to move ladders for your roof guys. So Rodney's working on that side of the house. He's almost done. We're gonna grab this ladder and take it to him. We're gonna make their job as easy as possible if I'm a ground guy. I want him to be able to get down over there, take a break. He's just running this whole ridge here. He's hot, he's tired, he's thirsty. We're gonna let him get down, take a break, but I wanna make that break as easy as possible for him. So what we're doing here is, these are our last ridge lines to run. And we're measuring out, we're gonna go ahead and cut so Rodney can start putting those up. And then since we're only working off one reel today, we can start working, which will actually start over there. We can start working, putting the trim up across the front as Rodney's putting that. So he's pulled bulbs over the peak there on the dormer, measured it out and cut it. What we know is that this dormer here is the same size as this dormer. So you can go ahead and, I think we measured out 14 bulbs on that. So he can go ahead and cut out. We'll know before he drags over. So he's gonna measure this one and we'll cut it, and then he'll just cut 14 bulbs out for this one so that we can go ahead and start installing the trim here. Ready, action. Don't fall off that roof. Please be careful. You're gonna come across this where you get to a flashing and you can't really clip here without it. You can, but it won't look good. So we always try to go around the flashing. But you got this bulb here. You can throw it behind here and hide it if you want to, but it gets down in the gutter and it'll get wet and it'll possibly short the line out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull from that corner a little bit to get this bulb closer so that we can kind of match it up on the other side of the flashing. And we're just gonna rip this, we're gonna pull this socket right here. You just grab one side of the wire and the bulb in the socket in the other hand and rip it off. It does leave the little holes where the vampire teeth hook into that, but it's not a big deal. I've never had an issue with it. Kind of pinch it down and just make sure that it's not sitting down in the gutter. But always go behind to hide the wire there. You can always tuck it in underneath the shingle if you need to. So we're just going to take this one up, this one right here, match it to the other side the same distance, close, and then hide that. It's not going down because it's kind of tight. So we're good there. Now, since we pulled these, we got to go back and kind of fix these clips and make sure that they're still good. All right, this is what I'm saying when I said it would be easy to break these ridge caps here. This is like the weakest point on the roof, is out here at the peak at the edge. So if you just go to shoving a clip in there, it'll rip this back, and then you won't have a way to clip your lines on, so you have to be super careful. We try to get a bulb standing straight up on every peak. Sometimes it's just not a possibility. So sometimes you can clip on the left side here and then use this next bulb down and pull it tight. You can also take a ridge clip that clips on each side of this ridge here to make it stand straight up, but you kind of got to put it back. So if the wind blows hard or something, it will not push that bulb or that clip off there. So we've come to our inset here where we're cutting, and then we're jumping up here on the flashing and then running down the gutter line here. But I just want to always check, make sure it's metal. So we're going to use these magnet clips to run from here to here. And then once we get on the gutter line, we'll go back to regular clips. So when you're bulbing and clipping these pouches with pockets on both sides, there's got one that goes around your waist and this one goes around your shoulders, whatever you're into, whatever you like. These are good for bulbing and clipping. You can put a lot of stuff in them and you can be efficient. But when it's time to get on the roof and start tying everything in with your males and females, this vest right here, got it on Amazon, it was like 20 bucks. I think it's a fishing vest. This is great, so you can put all the stuff that you need in your pockets and zip it up kind of halfway. You have everything you need. When you're on the roof, you don't want something hanging off your waist. It gets in the way from crawling around and tying everything in. So as you go up, we want to make sure that we have, so right now, we have our females with our knockout tabs. And the easiest way, either you're going to put this in a pocket and you put your back tabs in a different pocket, or if I have time, I like to go ahead and put these things on like halfway. I like to go ahead and kind of put them on like that if I have time. Throw them in the pocket. So you'll need those. You need males, females with the knockout tab, and then you'll need some jumper wire, which here's some right here, but it comes on rolls. Always make sure that you have a pair of cutters. Doesn't really matter what kind they are. We like to use these little wire stripper cutters, although you don't really need to strip anything ever, but it's nice if you have to like tuck a wire in somewhere. If you're hiding it, you can kind of just push it in with that stub nose there. Also, as you're getting prepared to go up on the roof and you're getting your males and females, I always try to shove more than I think I'll need in there, but as far as females and males go, you're typically going to use 1.5 females to 1 male. The ratios, I don't know the exact ratio, but you're always going to use more females than males because you're capping ends off with these things, with the females. We typically just use these cheap photocell timers because if you're gonna have failure on a job, it's gonna come from the timer most of the time, whether it's a $15 timer or it's a $50 timer. It's just, they get water in them, they're gonna go out. And a lot of times, if you have a customer call and they say my lights aren't working, a lot of times it's not actually a failure, it's just a troubleshoot. So it's gonna depend on you, the company, how you wanna handle that. You could have a light pointing at the photocell, say the customer has landscape lights or down lights. It could be pointed right at the photocell, which will make it not work. You could walk them through that, or you can just go out and service it and figure it out and let them know what you did to fix it and how to keep them going. So this is our starting point. That's our power, where we're gonna start from. So we're actually gonna hang this up there, tie it in, and run this line to the timer and this line to the timer. So it'll be two separate lines running back to power, but both powered by one timer coming on and off at the same time. We're gonna go ahead and build two little jumpers to get back to the timer right there. Show you how to do that. So you wanna take the ribbed side of the wire, that's the raised side here, that's the flat side, and take it and connect it to the larger side of the plug. This goes for the males and the females. So we gotta turn around and look on the larger side of the plug. Where does the vampire prong come up, and it comes up on the side I'm pointing to there. So we're going to take this and put it down in this hole on the back side, pinch it down, squeeze it down good, and then take your back plate and push over it. If you want more security, if you can see down in that hole, there's a little line that separates the two wires. You can pull these two lines apart, and when they go down in there, it will totally separate them. So we're going to check again, make sure the rib's on the right side. That's correct. Push this down in there and roll it over. And slide the back plate on. Push it till it goes all the way flat on both sides. This process is going to be the same for males and females. Before we do that, let's talk about this timer and the positioning of it. So you want to pay attention. Are there any landscape lights down here that would shine up to mess with this photocell? Are there any down lights? Well, yep, there is one. So what we want to do is just make sure that this sensor on this photocell timer is kind of pulled away from that light right there. You might have to, there's times you're going to have to adjust. You might have to run a jumper from here to around the house, or hanging on the gutter here on the back side of the house, just to make it work. And there's really no way that you can tell for sure if you got it until the customer calls you and tells you, my lights aren't working. But it's best to do as much as you possibly can on the front end to make sure that you don't have to make another trip out. Done. Now we just got to start tying in the rest of the house. This is why it's so important to think about your tie-ins before you start installing. We could have just got up there and start throwing lights everywhere, but you want to think about, what's it going to be like when I take these down? How long are these strands going to be? How are they going to come off the roof? Where are they going to be tied in, and how am I going to mark them? All for the mere fact that we're thinking about next year. You want to make it as easy as possible for next year. So this job, the way it lays out, we started on this corner bottom trim and ran across, and we got one that stops right there. So that'll be one line. You got a new line starting right there, coming across there, going back in. That'll be a second line. Then you got one starting here, going over, up and down, and back towards the garage. That'll be a third line. Then a fourth line. We have one starting right here, going up and across, all the way across the ridge, and then back down the other side. That'll be your fourth line. And then the last but not least are the dormers. The dormers will essentially be your fifth line here. We'll mark them all together, put jumpers between them, and we'll reference point, we'll mark this top bulb peak here so that we know that's where we need to start. And if you want to do it that way, you can. We typically will put a little electrical tape over the male and female connections between them. Those will tie in from the roof, from the ridge line up there. We'll drop a jumper down to this one, or probably this one, and tie those all together. So our lines ended here, right there on the gutter, and then one on the ridge coming down there. Those just get females. It would be easy to forget that we ran two different lines down here at the start of the house. You might forget and tie those together with a male and female. You just want to make sure that you're aware and that the team is communicating, hey, we started the lines. We have two power lines on the other end of the house, so these just end. Both of them have females. Last thing, job's done, everything's tied in. Always walk the flower beds and the grass line. Make sure there's no trash. But that's it, everything should be good. All the lights should be working. If they're not, then have your customer shoot you an email with a picture of the lights at night to indicate where that light's out. That way, during the day when you come fix it, you'll know exactly where to fix it at.